Hey, what's up, good people? So who I am is not super vital to this video, but what I'm about to say is, and so please listen up, because some of us archers are thinking a little soft. So, in what ways are we being soft? Maybe soft is a stretch, but I'm just saying we're prioritizing the wrong thing when we say we don't want to lift or take care of our bodies because my practice goes down and my archery suffers. Where in reality, if we're really being focused on the process and not the score, even under fatigue, you can execute and practice your shot. Now, don't get me wrong, in the heart of competition and when competition is high, I'm not saying go lift and do the hardest crap ever. It's not what I'm saying, but I am saying that training goes both ways. And if we're really focusing on the development of our bodies and as archers of trying to get our shot execution a lot better, then I have a hard time understanding how us lifting and having stronger shoulders, holding more steady, having a stronger core, having a stronger leg base could ever make us a worse archer, especially when we're considering the long haul. In this video, I want to break down some of those thoughts into a little bit more detail, but I'm going to get my target set up and keep on recording on my phone. So probably won't be the best quality, but stay tuned and we'll get some good information out there. So to get back to it and to better understand what it is that I'm actually getting at when I talk about not prioritizing the wrong things at the wrong times in the heart of competition, that just means that we have to structure our seasons in some ways of an in season or out of season type of mindset. There's something that's called periodized training. Some of you guys may know of it, some of you may not, but a lot of you are doing it but don't even realize it inside of your archery. There's a ramp up period where you might say, man, I want to get my arrow count up so that I can build some strength. Some of you guys do progressive overload with your shooting, that when you start off your season, you start with less weight on your bar, and then over time you start building it up and add a little bit on the back and add a little bit on the front. Some of you guys do that, I've heard it. But these are all touching on these ideas of getting your body acclimated to something so that you can be better by the end of the season. So when we say setting ourselves up for success, I think you have to understand when we're working and building our shoulders, yes, our scores may suffer, but we have to set a baseline at some point so that we don't suffer in the long haul. And so, for example, if I am trying to get stronger and I finally understand, hey, this is my off season, or maybe I'm competing, but this is during a time that my competition is a little less important, if you will. Not saying that we just brush things off ever, because I'm always in the spirit of actually competing to win. But I also know that if I want to be the best archer that I can be, or best football player, or best basketball player, I'm going to look at it in the long term. I'm not just looking at the immediate, especially for the young archers out there. Now, for the most part, the guys that are watching this are not young, and they're trying to figure out, well, who I am, and I'm as strong as I'm going to be. But that's just not true either. And I think that that's super vital for all of us to consider, especially when we talk about shoulder health in the long term and longevity. We talk about this being a lifelong sport, but then I hear about people tearing their labrum shooting a bow. To me, that is crazy. That should be unheard of. But when we're doing 1,000 reps a day or whatever you're doing, it makes sense. But there's also a lot of tangible ways that we can actually avoid some of these issues. So now to get a little bit more practical, when we are talking about trying to build a baseline, we have to understand that building a baseline means that I am going to be doing more work inside the weight room than maybe I'm shooting my bow, because the consistent repetitions that we might take shooting our bow might wear us down in our shoulders and put us more susceptible to actual injury. So to be a little bit more specific, just like I was saying, when it comes down to it, we have to break all of our archery life or seasons or competition periods into seasons. We have to understand when it's important to get stronger and when it's important to shoot really, really great, because doing both at the same time will be problematic. There's no way around that. But at the end of the day, when we look at our season, let's use football for an example. If you look at the summertime, that would be time for the football player to build up some stability and some rigidity so that when it comes down to the season, they can actually push back on the toll of the season. They can build their engine, if you will. So you build this big old nice engine, and then when the season comes along, we don't fully just drop it off and say, well, the engine was built. No, in the season you do some fine tuning. You are still training. You're still in the weight room, for example, still lifting. Are you still doing, in the other video that I posted, 3x10? No, heck no. That's way too much volume. But you're still in the weight room. You're still lifting. You're still doing your shoulder stuff. But a lot of what I'm seeing are a bunch of band exercises. I think you have to do a little bit more than bands to actually help keep your joints and your muscles and your ligaments healthy. So when we talk about loading, that might look like you're doing 5 sets of 3 of something that is moderately heavy. Let that happen in season. But when you're out of season, allow your scores to suffer a little bit so that when it comes down to the season, you're 9, 10 or whatever, 12, 15 pound bow, however much you have it loaded up to, or if you're a Jamie Lutz and you have it as a 6 pound bow, whatever you're doing, at the end of the day, if you are stronger going into the season, it sets you up for a lot more success than you would have if you didn't build up the muscle. And then in season, as I said, maintaining some strength, making sure that you're doing more than just your upper body lifting, especially the guys that are doing the long hike type of matches and just being on your feet that long. Some of you guys carry around chairs, but at the end of the day, if you have a strong base, that's going to allow for so much more stability. Even paying attention to the shoes you wear in competition, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But I think at the end of the day, if we really understand that out of season, I have to understand to build my engine, and in season, I need to learn how to sustain, then I better set myself up for success in the long haul, in my own archery journey or in your own archery journey or competition life, however you want to frame it. And even if you're not a competition guy, it's just the best thing to do for your body so that we avoid those labrum tears in the shoulders or having all these crazy aches and pains that are avoidable. But again, you have to put in the work. You have to actually put the time in inside the weight room to actually reap the benefits. That means doing some pushing, doing some pulling, and that doesn't mean trying to make the weight room look like an archery room. I know that there's a guy out there called Archery Strong, and I'm not going to knock on his stuff, but when I look at it, I see a lot of things that look like archery, and to a lot of people that might sound really, really beneficial, but the thing that can be problematic with making the weight room look like your sport, you come back to this point of using the same exact muscles that you use in archery. And this might sound backwards, but you have to build up the supporting muscles around the joints outside of just the ones that you're using. So let's say I just want to build my lat and my rear delt on this arm because that's my pulling, and I'm just trying to build my delts up on the front arm. It sounds good, but in the big picture, you're just using the same muscles that you're going to use in archery when you do your archery practice. And then you've accumulated more fatigue, and then when those muscles break down, you have no supporting muscles around those joints to actually build and set you up for success in the long haul. And so again, that's not a knock on anything that I have seen from Archery Strong, because I haven't looked into all of this stuff. I'm just saying we have to make sure we're looking and building up the full picture and the full body when it comes down to the archer's development. And I can't say it enough, but our lower body still is very vital. Some guys will feel better when they shoot in a chair, and that's because you're taking the legs out of the equation, and you don't have to worry about trying to be balanced in space. But if you build up the strength in your legs, standing there and being still is a lot easier. And then on top of that, inside of competition, if you stay and have aerobic fitness as well, which we haven't even touched on in this video, you also can calm your heart down a lot easier than somebody that's out of shape and their heart rate is going crazy out the wall. That doesn't mean that you're not going to get amped up and still have to deal with nerves, but at the end of the day, if you can control your heart rate, a lot of those nerves subside a lot more in the big picture of all of this archery journey. I could ramble and get a lot more specific, but for the sake of the video, I think I'm gonna cut it there because I have a lot more shooting I want to do, and I'm running out of time for my lunch break. And so if you want more, I would love to explain more, and if there's specific things that you guys might want me to speak on, I would love to elaborate on them, and I plan on elaborating on them. But if I get some requests that are a little bit more specific in regards to, well, what should I do? What exercises do I suggest? I would love to add in some of those things. But as I was saying, at the end of the day, the goal is to build a stronger body, which then makes it a more resilient body. And at the end of the day, a more resilient body is a lot more enjoyable when it comes down to archery and just life in general. So when we talk about just being better day in and day out, I think that's one of the aspects that we can all do a little bit better. Now, I said soft to grab some attention, and maybe I don't mean soft exactly, but what I do want us to make sure we're understanding is we have to develop our bodies. We owe it to our families, we owe it to everybody and ourselves. Let's just take care of our bodies. You're not gonna regret the work you do in the weight room. You will regret the work that you don't do. And then we have to choose our heart. Love that quote. I just want to say it. So, that's that.